This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
Judge in the Kohberger case denying Brian Kohberger's motion for dismissal of the whole case, which is not a surprise to anyone. But what I did find interesting was the commentary that he made about it and his body language while the defense was laying out their case. And then suddenly it went to, I find that argument very creative. I think that said a lot right there. Siobhan Scott, psychotherapist and author, joining us to discuss this. What was your reaction to the Kohberger hearing the other day, where we heard the response from the judge of very creative?
Yeah, no surprise at all. And it's just interesting how judges differ so much, isn't it? Some of them are very stoic and very proper, and some of them really leak a lot of emotion and they leak their reactions out, which of course makes it more entertaining for the viewers.
Without a doubt. This has been one where I feel like you can really read the judge's face very well. His reactions are very animated and very much, I think, in line with what a lot of people are feeling at the same time. I don't know if that's really a good thing for a judge in a trial situation like this, supposedly being impartial and such, and I'm sure he is. But the reactions are kind of priceless. But anyway, the dismissal thrown out and cameras are staying in the court, which brings us back to the camera discussion. It's interesting because both the defense and the prosecution have requested no cameras, please. The families, most of them saying, yeah, we think we should hear this. Obviously, all the media and really just anybody who wants to learn more about this saying, yes, please keep cameras, but he's going to keep it in under control is the way he stated it. What's your take on this? Both parties, defense and prosecution, saying, please no. He's saying, yeah, I'm going to keep them in.
Well, I think, they each would have their reasons for feeling like that it doesn't benefit them to have cameras. And for one thing, for the defense, you get Kohberger's unusual facial expressions and reactions. And I'm sure that they're thinking that may not work to their benefit, to his benefit. And then I would think for the prosecution, it changes the dynamic having a camera. I mean, there's no way it can't. And I would think it puts them under a different sort of pressure. They know that the world is watching. Yeah. And that's got to change the way they perform. And there may be some that thrive under that. And there may be others that just feel like, that's just a layer of stress we'd rather not have.
Sure. I want to go back and talk about some of the early writings of Brian Kohberger that we saw early on in this investigation, the documents that talk about visual snow and being disconnected, those ones. And what I wanted to understand more about that from you is when someone, I believe he was in his teen years, mid-teen years, if I'm correct, when he was writing those posts online, when someone's feeling those things, and it seemed like it was a very infancy of him recognizing those emotions and those feelings at that time, of recognizing, I just don't feel connected. I see him at a family gathering. I don't feel a connection to anyone. And the visual snow was also interesting. When someone begins to feel that way, especially in their adolescence as they're developing, does that go away? Is that something that one can break out of, or is that just kind of your genetics, how your brain develops, and you get what you get?
It's a red flag for some big problems and not a typical adolescent experience. I mean, adolescents go through a lot of turmoil and tumult, but that's not a typical adolescent experience, and really a red flag for personality problems. And personality is 50% genetic, 50% environmental forces. It's different with everybody. So could he have had some kind of intensive therapy at that point that might have made a difference? Who knows? Maybe not. It's clear that it didn't happen. And there were just so many, signs that he was really disturbed. And it didn't sound psychotic, but it did sound like a personality problem that was becoming pretty set. And my sense in reading all that is that he was using the visual snow as an excuse for all these other things that were wrong. It's like he latched onto that as this is the reason I'm different. And his obsessive qualities, the way he was trying to, solve the problem with eliminating toxins from his diet and the strict veganism and all these things. It really was shocking. And I have to think perhaps his family had no idea that he was keeping all this secret, because you would think if they knew, they would have been more proactive about getting him help, but maybe not, He's certainly an odd duck, but the grandiosity, that tendency, he wrote so much in that forum he was involved in and tried to come off as an expert. And that was the personality quality that carried over into his university years, where everybody said he always had to be the smartest guy in the room and knew more than everyone and was so arrogant. And so that, again, that's a troubling personality quality. And then that sense of, he referred to himself and other people as sacks of meat.
Yeah.
Okay, red flag. There's no empathy here. So you see the narcissism, the tendency to be somewhat psychopathic and self-serving and dehumanize other people. And, if in fact he is the killer, then there was the sadistic element too. So that's kind of the classic serial killer.
Yeah. And with that being said, that certainly, I'm sure, doesn't fare well into any sort of romantic relationships. We don't really have any record of anything that he had other than a couple dates and people saying that it was rather odd, to be nice, I would say. I mean, when someone has those sort of tendencies, are they really just incapable of holding a relationship, a romantic type relationship?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, unless you're with someone else who has some sort of other mental disorder that somehow that feeds them. But when you have that, I mean, how difficult is that then to interact in that sort of a way?
Pretty much impossible to have intimate friendships, even, bonding with people on a deep level who are normal, because he just doesn't go there. He doesn't do that. And it's like there's a missing piece in his personality. And I don't think that's going to work out in a relationship where skills at connecting are the basis for relationships, intimate relationships.
Sure. And without having that, there's no a chance of that. He seemed to very much be frustrated by that, from what we can understand, that, he thought he was the smartest person in the room. So why wouldn't everybody love him? Why wouldn't women be flocking to him? That seemed to be kind of a piece of mystery to him, when he never really realized, maybe it's me. Maybe there's something I need to work on.
And I need to look at myself, and maybe I do have visual snow, which is frustrating, but that's not the cause of all this other stuff that's wrong.
No. What I was wondering, and this came to me the other night when I was thinking about this case, and maybe it's a far out there theory, but my thought process was on his frustration with women, everything we talked about there, his inability to connect, the visual snow, everything there, but feeling very smart over here, but very rejected over here. Would he have maybe gone down this road of horribly murdering these 4 women with the goal? Because he was a criminology student. He studied all different cases. He certainly studied something very interesting about a lot of criminal cases and serial killers and horrible people behind jail. They get attention from women after committing these horrible crimes. And that was something that was impossible for him to get. And we've talked earlier about, did he do this on purpose? Did he want to go down this road? Did he want to take this ride? It almost in some ways seems like he did. I'm wondering, and tell me if I'm way out there, maybe I am, was that the possible goal? Was that the goal, to essentially commit a horrible crime, and in his mind probably get vengeance on those who have rejected him? But in the end,
the vengeance piece, definitely.
But in the end, behind bars, he's getting attention from women, which he's never gotten before. Was this all a crazy, twisted path that he wove and saw to get that attention from women from behind bars?
It's a great theory. It's interesting. I have to say, I hadn't thought about that. Is anything plausible? Yeah. It would surprise me if he thought ahead that far, because it's my guess that he thought he was so smart and so sophisticated that he wouldn't be caught, and that, he could go on and vent his rage at women in violence, which, as I said, gives people like this euphoria. They enjoy it. It's a release for them. So it's my guess that was the primary motive. It was just to release this rage because women rejected him.
Sure.
And who knows what other kinds of weird thoughts were going on in his head. But definitely it was other people's fault. It was never looking at himself and saying, gee, maybe there are some things I need to do different socially. He just didn't have that awareness and that insight. But yeah, that's one of the creepier aspects to these cases, are the female fan clubs that come out of the woodwork to send the love letters and offers of marriage and, all these other things. It's just another strange aspect.
I wonder if it was a bizarre act of desperation of, if I can't get it over here or attention from women over here, I'm going to show everybody, and I'm going to get that attention over here. And I'm going to take out some people who rejected me in the process. But again, you're right. That would take a little more introspection than I think we believe he may be capable of.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, though. I'm going to ponder that one. I like it.
Yeah, think about that one for a little bit, because I haven't heard that one yet. It just was like,
I haven't heard it either.
I wonder. I do wonder.